What's up, bikers? I'm Robert. This is the B1KER Bar Podcast live stream episode 139. I really feel like I should have some better intro than me telling you what the number is because for fuck's sakes, I mean, you probably downloaded this on your podcast app or you're looking at it on YouTube. It's written all over the place. So one of these days, I promise, I'm going to come up with some kind of like cool little jingle or something like that. And I'm going to load this audio file on here and it's going to start out and you guys are going to just be blown away. So, but until then, you get to hear me say episode 139 or episode whatever the hell it is. Maybe I'll just keep doing that out of like whatever the heck. Nonetheless, we have Luke from Cutlaps on today, so that'll be exciting to talk about. A new Aussie YouTuber on the scene. But before we do that, let's do a couple things here. First of all, I have the very first viral post that I've ever made in my whole social media career happening right now on Instagram. And if you're not on Instagram, you don't get to see it. So anyways, if you want to, you can swing by my Instagram at B1KER. I actually reposted on Facebook too, so you could go see it there. Same deal, B1KER. And it's free. You can just go over there and see what's going on. And it makes me happy whenever I finally see those numbers growing. So it's really simple. Go over there, get some free content, make me happy, and we can interact a little bit more over there too. It's easier to chat and stuff. So those of you that are podcast listeners, I really need somebody to write me a review. A 5-star review would be preferable. If you're thinking like 4 or 3, you should probably wait for one of the other guys to do a 5-star review instead. But anyways, I looked the other day and the last person that wrote one was in September. And I feel like we're losing some momentum. I need to make sure the algorithm knows that this is the best mountain bike podcast out there. So do me a favor, go over to Apple Podcasts, write a review, 5-star review. That's the key part. If you're anything less than that, I really think you should procrastinate longer. But anyways, yeah, do that. That would really help me out a lot. I really appreciate it. But the people that I appreciate the most out of all you guys listening are the people that are on Patreon because they really help this show stay going. It's at the end of the day, this stuff isn't cheap. And until the YouTube dump truck of money just shows up and starts dumping this pile of cash in my driveway, I need help. And everybody on Patreon is doing that. You can do it as little as $1 a month, or you could do like $5 a month. That would be cool. Put a little beer in the fridge while you're at it. Nonetheless, I really appreciate all you guys. Thanks for listening. If you're on YouTube and you want to just you like pushing buttons, bang on that thumbs up button. If you haven't subscribed, do that, and you can keep getting more of this free content. And then let's just go ahead and bring Luke on. To get this thing started. What's up, Luke? How's it going?
Yeah, pretty good. Stoked to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. I'm like, it was really cool that I like bumped into your channel the other day, and like here we are. Boom.
Yeah,
this is a whole new world that we live in nowadays, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So you're what's your YouTube channel about?
I'm lucky enough to have access to 160 acres of just bushland, raw bushland, to build a mountain bike trail in. So that's it. I'm just sort of building this trail episode by episode and just watching it grow, watching the channel grow as well. It's been awesome.
Yeah. I was gonna explain it myself, but I figured, you know what? This is this dude's channel. It'd probably be easier if he just explained what the hell he's doing over there. So 168 acres. I want to ask you this. I always hear like people from Australia say bush. Does that just like mean like forest, or is there like actual like a differentiation between bush and like something else?
I was actually thinking of exactly this last night because of this interview, and I was like, wait, is there a difference between the woods and bush? But I mean, in my head, I always picture the woods to be, or like the forest to be more alpiney and, sort of getting pine trees and stuff. Whereas over here, the Australian bush is kind of like really scraggly and dense undergrowth. And I'm not sure whether there's actually a definition that is different for both of them. But It's just
Yeah.
I picture them kind of different in my head. Yeah.
Because like
So it is just a forest.
yeah, because there's a good portion of Australia that's more like almost like a high desert kind of landscape, right?
Yeah, like I guess a lot of the just internal Australia where there's not too much of a population. Yeah, it's a
Uh-huh.
lot more flat and deserty for sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
so in my head, that's what the bush is. But
No,
so like the
so
bush is
the bush
actually
is just
like
our
more like
forest. Yeah,
forest then.
yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
I see. Because in my head, I'm just like, the dingo ate my baby. And like, and they're out in the middle of the desert on that. So I'm like, that must be the bush.
Yeah, no, that's the outback. That's the
Oh,
outback.
that's the outback. So the outback's even different than the bush.
Yeah, yeah. Outback, that's yeah, way more deserty, really hot, red sands and stuff. Whereas yeah, bush is sort of yeah, I guess more coastal areas.
In my mind, like the outback just meant like that you're like out in the cuts, like out in the like far away from civilization.
Yeah,
See?
well, I guess that's pretty much it.
Yeah, yeah. No, but I mean, like you guys have a different, like you differentiated that like differently right out the gate. So obviously, I'm off. I'm learning, man. I'm learning. I've wanted to go to Australia for a long time in my life. When I was younger, I always wanted to go to Germany. So my last name's Schumacher, and like obviously that's pretty German. So I thought it would be really cool to go over there and like check it out. And then after I lived there for a while, I kind of had this moment where I was like, man, I don't have this like big life goal of something that I wanted to do. And at that time I like came up with I wanted to go to Australia. And I'm somehow have managed not to do that in like the last 20 years.
It is like it's a mission to get down here. Whenever I'm sort of trying to plan a trip overseas or something, it's a 24-hour flight at least to get anywhere type thing. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's worth it. You should definitely come down, man.
Yeah, yeah, no, I definitely want to. And I've seen some really rad riding and stuff like that down there. And I don't know, there's a lot to it, there's a lot to it down there. So I think it'd be really cool to come see. But 24
Yeah,
hours on a plane?
I can't remember exactly, but like I've flown to LA a couple of times, and yeah, it's
Yeah.
a mission.
Do you have like a layover in like Hawaii or somewhere or like where?
No, usually it's a direct flight from Sydney to LA, and it
Jesus.
could be
So you're
longer
just,
than 24 hours or something. I don't know.
yeah, you're just like camping out on the plane forever. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
you get.
my wife wants to go to the Philippines or Thailand or something like that. One of those places over there. And that's a really long flight too. That's like one of those ones where people are like, it takes forever to get there, but once you're there, it's awesome. So
Yeah, probably pretty similar.
yeah. Right on, man. So what made you decide to start a YouTube channel?
Well, I've always been passionate about filming and making videos, like ever since we had a little handy cam when we were growing up and stuff. So always making home videos, and I love the tech side of things. So I was snowboarding, and I started out making snowboard films, which was awesome. And then during COVID, I was just building my mountain bike trail, loving it. And during that time, I found guys like Seth both the Seths doing like backyard trail builds, and Mark Mass and stuff like that. So it's just like, all right, cool. I've got the skills to be filming and documenting this stuff as well. I love the filming. I love the writing. I love the building. It's stupid not to make a mountain bike YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So that's how it came to be. And then after doing a little bit of research into YouTube as well, I was like, oh shit, like if this takes off, I could actually turn this into my full-time job. And that's the dream. Like imagine just doing exactly what I love, making videos, making trails and riding, and then getting paid for it. So
yeah. Sounds like a good deal, right?
yeah. A lot of hard work to get there, a long way off yet, but it's good to have goals to work towards.
Yeah, no, 100%. So with the snow stuff, did you have a channel there too or you were just making videos for fun for like
No,
yourself?
just making videos. I mean, I put a couple up on Vimeo and stuff, but it really started when I did a season over in Utah back in 2007 with a bunch of mates, and we went down to Best Buy and bought like the cheapest video camera we could, and just started filming, make little edits, which was awesome. But I don't think I ever actually put them up online anywhere or anything like that. And eventually that sort of just grew. I got better cameras and was putting them up onto some sort of digital snowboard magazines and stuff. And they got a little bit of traction, but I never really had my own channel that would take off or anything.
So you generally like knew how to edit and stuff before you started the Cutlaps channel?
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot through the snowboarding videos and stuff, because I'd always try and emulate what I was seeing on these DVDs, like the big productions, and so I'd teach myself a lot of the techniques through that. But then I also studied graphic design, which had a small part of video editing in there as well. So so I started to learn a bit more through that. And then working as a graphic designer, because I had some video editing background, I started getting into like some cinema advertisements, some television commercials and stuff like that as well. So I quickly had to sort of upskill myself on video editing. And I think it's all just sort of come together now for like everything that I've learned over the past 15 years has all sort of been building up to this YouTube channel. I think like all those skills are finally being put to use, which is pretty cool.
I feel like you can definitely tell by like your production value, because when I saw your channel, like and I'm not trying to like poop on anybody that has 4,000 subscribers, but a lot of us at 4,000 subscribers don't have our shit together as much as yours did. Like I could see like you had these little pop-up animations, and not only is like the text on there, but the text, like the animation itself is moving. And I know like more than likely that's not just like a little bot, like plug in. Like usually you have to build those things yourselves or were they kind of like just little like add-ins for
I do have a bunch of add-ins and stuff. Like as a graphic designer, I'm running my own business, so I do have access to some big libraries and stuff.
I see.
Yeah, in saying that, I do. Yeah, I pick the stuff for the channel. There is a lot of hand-drawn animation on my channels, but usually overlays, I've just paid for something that actually suits my style and tweak it to make it work for myself. But I am cutting corners on some of this animation stuff.
No, that's really rad. My problem is I fall into this, like, I'm too cheap to pay like $1.50 for some animation. So I'd rather spend like 6 hours trying to make one that's half as good. And then I'm like, yeah, that was worth it.
It's good. Like I love the animation stuff as well, but I'm spending way too much time on these video edits already. I was like, shit, I just I'll download something. This works and I'll stick with it. So
I really need to be a little bit more diligent about like doing something like that. Cause are you using a Mac or I think you said you were on a Mac earlier.
Mac, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of really good resources for those type of things. At least it seems to me for Final Cut, where like Premiere, it seems like
I'm on Premiere.
You are on. God damn it. Now you're just ruining every excuse.
No excuses.
Is there like a single website that you can go to, kind of like an epidemic for sound, but it's for like all the video stuff?
I actually signed up to be an affiliate of it the other day, but it's the one I use is Envato Elements, and that actually has sound effects, music. So I use it for my graphic design business. And there's graphic templates, there's Photoshop mockups, then there's all the video templates, video footage. And it was one of the cheapest things. So that's kind of my go-to for a lot of stuff now. I mean, I don't actually use it too much, but it's handy to have that there if I just need a little bit of B-roll and stuff. So
it's a tool.
I mean, it's so much easier for me because it's a work expense for my graphic design as well, and it's just something that my YouTube channel benefits from at the same time.
Yeah, no, but that's a good tool to have in the toolbox, like I'm like that kind of stuff exactly right there is a primary reason that I talk to people about Patreon, like at the beginning, about helping support the channel. Because there's so many little things like that that people just don't, they like take for granted. Like, how much does your Adobe, cost you a month? I don't know, $60 a month. How much
Yeah.
does the StreamYard cost for this podcast? Like something like that. I don't know, it's $50 a month or something like that. Then, you know what I mean? It's like you add it all up, all these like,
Yeah.
okay, how much does it cost for epidemics or epidemic or whatever the fuck they call themselves? So I have music. It's like, that's another $15. And you're like, next thing you know, you're like, holy shit, man, I'm in this thing for a lot of money.
Yeah, it adds up. It sure adds up. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's good. I've finally just got monetized as of yesterday. So,
Yeah.
if I can
So you'll be
hopefully make a little bit of
rich in
money
like
that
another
helps
month.
them, I'll be what?
You'll be rich in
I
like
might be
another
able to
month.
afford I might actually be able to afford 1 month of the Elements program or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you.
Yeah, it
It's
all
like,
helps. That's it.
yeah, totally. No, I really appreciate everybody that does that, and like the super chats that come in on the live streams. Have you ever done a live stream yet on your channel?
No, I haven't. I've been
No.
toying with the idea, but I mean, I'm out in the bush. I'm out.
Hmm.
It's rural area, which so the internet coverage. I mean, I want to do a live track walk where I'm actually walking around the bush
Hmm.
and just sort of showing people in real time, and they can ask questions and stuff. That would be
Hmm.
uh, awesome to do. I just got to work out the logistics of that. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know you can set the GoPro up to like go through your cell service. So depending
Yeah,
on what kind of connection you have, because I'm pretty sure Brian's done that before with his, like, he's done a ride and he was
yeah,
streaming the ride while he was like chatting with people.
yeah. Right. Yeah, I should ask him for some tips.
Yeah.
Because like I've
I
got the
feel like,
Wi-Fi dongle as well, so I think
uh,
I can make it work just as long as the reception is quick enough.
yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, give it a shot, man. I mean, the worst thing that
Yeah,
happens is it doesn't work out very well, and who cares? It's YouTube, right? It's not like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? At the end of the day, people aren't paying for it. So if it's screwed up, you're like, well, that didn't work out.
Yeah. Just hide the video from the channel anyway, so it's all good.
Yeah. I used to do a lot of live streaming, and mostly what it was just me getting drunk in my garage and talking to everybody. So the order of operation was like typically end the live stream and delete it immediately, because God knows what I said that probably wasn't appropriate. Doesn't need to be on the internet for very long. So
Yeah, I can imagine doing something like that as well.
yeah. So how long have you been riding bikes, man?
Not too long actually, in the scheme of things. I mean, I grew up riding bikes, but never fully got into mountain biking or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I got my first mountain bike just before COVID hit. So I was in there
Oh
before
wow.
the COVID wave and could actually pick myself up a decent bike. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, it's only been, what's that, 3 years now or something?
Yeah, something like that. It seems like I have no idea of time. Like they should have a new, like, instead of like AD and BC, they should have like
Yes.
another BC, like before COVID and then an after COVID, like an AC. We need an AC, because
Yeah,
basically I have zero idea of time. I don't even know what day of the week it is anymore, ever.
exactly. Well, you're in the past for me as well. That was confusing trying to set this up,
Oh yeah, that was.
working
I
out the
forgot to
days.
make that joke earlier. I was like, I'm actually finally time traveling. This is like something I've been looking forward to my whole life. Because you're in tomorrow.
Yep,
It's Wednesday here. It's Thursday there.
Thursday
That
lunchtime. Yep.
every time I try to think about that, it just breaks my brain doesn't like want to like understand it. It's like,
Yeah.
no.
That's it. When you said it's like, yeah, we can do it on Wednesday lunchtime. I was like, is he accounting for the days and stuff here? Like, I better follow up.
That's a good thing that you did that, because I was zero, like I was not thinking about that whatsoever at all. So yeah, yeah, that's funny. So you just got into it and then like just instantly just kind of like fell in love, or what?
Yeah, well, like I said, I sort of grew up snowboarding and spent a lot of time snowboarding, and you could see doing the winter seasons down here, you could really see mountain biking starting to take off in summer as well at the resorts. So it was always there. And I was actually watching. I always loved watching mountain biking videos and stuff as well, even though I wasn't doing it. So I was like, I'll get into mountain biking one day. And then I ended up moving to a town called Thirroul that's about an hour south of Sydney. And there's some really chunky downhill trails that were pretty much, at the end of the street in my backyard there. I was like, well, yeah, of course I got to get a bike. So went out, picked up the cheapest sort of giant Talon that I could at the time. I think it was $600 over here. So just hardtail, not really progressive geometry or anything. And there was me and my mate just flying down this chunky black trails, just rattling around, having a great time. I was like, oh, I'll get this bike and see if I love the sport. But, instantly after that first ride, I'm like, yeah, this is something that I can definitely get into. So within a couple of months, I was already saving up for the first proper dual suspension bike, and never looked back.
Right on, man. So now you're rocking a Marin, is that right?
So I've got a temporary Marin. Bikes Online sent me that for the video project that I've just completed for them. And so I'll hold on to it for another couple of months before sending that back. But my actual bike is a Norco Optic.
Oh, right on.
So pretty similar specs, really.
Yeah. So what do you notice the difference between the two?
I think it's got a shorter chainstay on the Marin. It's the Riftstone 2 carbon. So it actually feels like the reach is about the same, but it feels like a shorter bike. And it feels.
You said the seat tube's a little more.
Pardon?
You said the seat tube angle is like a little bit like forward.
No. I think it's the actual chainstay and the sort of rear triangle shorter. So my Norco feels much longer, which means that it feels more planted on the downhill chunkier stuff. But then the Marin actually feels more playful. So on my trail where I don't actually have that much technical riding, I've got a couple of jumps and a couple of and berms and stuff. I feel a lot faster, and I'm pretty bad at jumping. So as soon as there's something a bit kicky, I just don't feel natural on that. But on the Marin, I'm feeling a lot better. Like I feel like I can pop it a lot better. And I think that might be due to the bike's just shorter.
Do they both have the same suspension design?
They've got pretty similar specs in the amount of travel.
No, like the design though, because I know like the Giant, for example, like the Giant Trance. I forget what that suspension's called. Somebody in the chat maybe can say it. It's like where the shock is kind of like pointing down the same way as the seat tube. Like for some reason that like suspension design, like it's really poppy and playful. Where like other suspension designs where the shock is like maybe like more in line with the down tube kind of, has a little bit of a different feel to it. Like the VPP on the Santa Cruz is really planted,
Yeah, right.
You can get playful, but you have to like make it do it,
Yeah, interesting. So I haven't actually tried any bikes that have that different positioning. These two, like I say, they're pretty much vertical with the seat tube.
So the Bikes Online said that it's the horse link on the Norco, and the Marin is the Fox bar, is what they're calling it. Faux bar or something. I don't know, something like that. FAUX. Is that faux or is that Fox? I don't know. Who gives a fox? Yeah. So it's the Maestro on the Giant. Somebody else threw that in there too. So
there you go.
But I don't know if that's the name of it. I think Maestro is like Giant's like name, but I don't think that's what the actual suspension design is. It's like I forget what it is. Anyways, I'm not one of those guys that's like super into that stuff. So
I've got no idea. I ride the bike and like, this feels fun. That's sick.
Yeah. I just like
That's about it.
repeat words that I hear other people say and then wait and for a reaction. And then if nothing happens, then I just crack a joke and then everybody forgets about it. So yeah, no, it's definitely like before my channel, I didn't ride a lot of different bikes. So after having the channel and like doing some different, reviews and stuff like that, I've definitely like been able to like notice differences now more than whenever I first started. But it definitely takes, I don't know, for some people they're really good at like noticing that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
you ever watch a Hardtail Party's channel?
No, I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah. He's like really good at like, oh well, this, I can feel this and this does this. And like for me, I'm like more like you, man. I'm like, yeah, I got on and the wheels spun, like like it takes me a while to really realize like a difference or something like that. So
I'll tell you what, I
but
did notice
typically,
a major difference between the going from one of those entry level hardtail talons to my bike,
yeah.
like just having the tight little handlebars on it and
Uh-huh.
very like you're really over the front wheel. So I've jumped back on that after having riding my optic for so long. Like, how the hell did I ride this down the trails that I did? Like, this is
Yeah.
the scariest thing ever. But yeah.
Yeah, little tiny little differences make like such a huge impact on the way that it feels when you ride, and I recently put 170 on my Bronson fork instead of the 160, and the fork that I had on there kind of sits a little higher in the travel, and it really like it made the bike climb like dog shit, and I was like, well, that didn't play out very well. And at first I just thought I was like, man, did I like get weaker or something? I was really starting to get in my head. I was like, man, I need to like up the miles some more. I'm like, I feel like I'm riding a ton right now. Like, what the hell? And it took like I said a minute ago, it took me a while to like put it all together. I'm like, wait a minute,
Yeah, this
So
isn't working properly.
yeah. But anyways, so
You want to make those climbs as easy as possible as well, man. I hate them. I'm
yeah,
all for
no,
the
I hear
downhills.
exactly. And I mean, gravity is good to me on the downhill because I'm fat, but it sucks whenever you're climbing. So like gravity's an asshat when I'm climbing. So how much trail building did you do before you decided to like start this project? Or is it you just learning from the beginning or?
Me just learning from the beginning. I mean, the trail existed for about a year before I actually started documenting any of it.
Mm-hmm,
And I had done like I'd started just playing around at my old place up in Sydney, digging
mm-hmm,
trails and stuff, but nothing major.
mm-hmm,
So yeah, it really just started. Dad and I were just out there just breaking a trail to ride.
mm-hmm,
So it's pretty rough and loose. It's the exact trail now, and so I've just been going over it and building features in, putting in the berms, and
mm-hmm,
making it awesome. But yeah, I'm definitely just learning as I go. So you can see from the very first episode on YouTube,
mm-hmm.
I've definitely progressed a long way and picked up a few different
Yeah.
techniques here and there. And yeah,
Yeah. How are you learning? Just like trial and error? Or are you like watching like Seth's channel or like
I
what's your
I consume as much trail building videos as I can. Like I just love it. I'm addicted to it. So
Mhm,
yeah, definitely learn a lot through YouTube. And then I'll be on the forums and stuff, just searching for different
mhm.
techniques. And there's some good Facebook groups and stuff that you can ask each other questions. And so I'm sort of monitoring those and learning from other people's mistakes as well. But I'm also love just getting out there and giving it a go. Oh, I've got
Yeah.
the IMBA's solution to single track um, books. So that's like a guide to knowing your dirt and drainage and just building sustainable trails and trying to do everything
Yeah.
correctly. I mean, it's YouTube. You do something wrong, people are going to tell you that you're doing it the wrong. So
That's
I
weird.
try and limit that as much as possible.
Yeah. I would never imagine a bunch of people in the comments of YouTube just freaking beating you up over something. Yeah.
Who's heard of
How long is the trail?
that? It's about 1 kilometer, which would be
Okay. Like a little bit
half a
more, half
mile.
a mile. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think a kilometer is like 2.2 or something like that for a mile or something. So right on. So it's a decent little amount of descent. And you're just how are you picking your features? You're just like, this seems like this would be good.
Trying to work just, using the natural terrain to really guide what gets built. And it changes. Like, I'll be out there just walking the trail all the time. And like, you know what, this feature would go sick here or whatever. I mean, I'm on Instagram, and whenever I see a cool, interesting feature, I'll save that to a library. So there's over 300 awesome features that I've just scrolled through every so often, like that would work right here. So yeah.
So that's not super long as far as like the distance. I mean, you're really going to run out of, like, you'll run out of space eventually. Like, it can't be like on one feature off to the next one. You know what I mean? Like, are you planning on putting another trail in, or are you?
There's so much room for more trails. I mean, the current trail, it only starts, it's a bit higher than halfway up the property and halfway up the elevation. So there's still a lot more mountain to go up behind it. That just happened to be where I started this one. And I was like, all right, I'll get this chunk of trail finished and running before starting any other projects in the area or extending the trail. But there's using sort of Google Maps and a few other mapping applications, I've worked out that I can probably have a trail that's about 3 kilometers of mostly downhill, which is pretty decent for it. Backyard trail. So, and that involves like, I found some, like there's lots of rock features and fernery, epic gullies. Like the place is just perfect for it. I'm so incredibly lucky and fortunate to be able to call that my home and actually have that as my backyard. Like it's insane.
No, that's super cool. I mean, I've built a trail that's about a mile long, and that's a lot of room, like that's there's a lot of things that you can have in there. So, and I would imagine it's not like you couldn't put something else that's off to the right or the left of it that's different trail too.
I've got a full bike park planned out. Like, you should see the map, and there's just trails going everywhere. Just trying to map out what's the best use of space so it isn't just a maze of trails out there either, and having them crossing over each other. Like, I want to actually sort of do it properly. So it's awesome. There's a lot of potential out there.
So you have a master plan. I mean, I just watched Seth's video the other day about building the bike park, and he said the master plan was the first step, man. And it makes sense though. I mean, like even if you're building something not up for a park, but like to have an idea of what you're going to do in the long run, because then like you said, you don't want them all crossing over or whatever. And if there are some spots where you need to have an intersection, then you can really limit that instead of later being like, man, if I would have just went over here, this would have been fine. You know what I mean? So
yeah. So I got a really loose master plan. I know where a bunch of trails can go, but who knows what the future holds. Like those plans can definitely change. So
yeah. What made you think? I'm going to mess up the name because I only watched a couple of your videos the other day, but you had one that's like is it like the pecker jump or something like that? What'd you call it?
The boner log.
The boner log. Yeah, that's it. So those of you guys that haven't seen his channel, basically he's got this like half of a telephone pole just sticking straight out of the ground at like a 45-degree angle, and then he turned it into a jump. So like, but that wasn't sticking out of the ground. Like, you had to do that on your own.
Yeah, we had to drag, found the perfect log. Dad's got a tractor, so we end up dragging. It's about 6 meters, so whatever that is in feet. I'm terrible.
Yeah, whatever.
But
that.
a massive log. Yeah. It's heavy as well. Like, I'm working with Australian hardwood, which is incredibly heavy. So we're just dragging this log off through the bush, and then I had to dig a massive hole because I wanted it to stick up out of the ground without having any extra supports either. So I had to dig a big hole in the ground, half of that log is actually underground, just so it supports your weight. And yeah, it turned out awesome.
What made you come up with that? You saw it somewhere else, or you were just like, this seems like a great idea?
I've definitely seen sort of boner logs or cannons as well as they're known. But I've seen a few around the place, and I was like, yeah, I'd love to build one of those. And it just ended up being the perfect location where that was. I was like, oh, here's my opportunity to build one. So I'll get into it. And then also from a YouTube perspective, I was like, I'm trying to build fun features, but features that are kind of more unique as well, or at least unique to my channel. So it's not just, building the exact same thing over and over, and it keeps viewers a little more interested.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it kind of like, it's like the format of like what Seth did, Bike Hacks or Burn Peak, whatever you want to tell, like what he did on his property, or, I mean, the other Seth, he's building on his own property too. So, I mean, it's similar. I mean, obviously it works because what is the other Seth? What is his channel called?
Backyard Trail Builds.
That's it. I was going to have him on the show a long time ago, and then something happened and it didn't work out. And I always forget about his channel, and then every once in a while it'll like pop up in my feed, and I'm like, oh yeah.
Well, he's gone pretty quiet at the moment. Like he just released a video 2 days ago, but that's kind of the first one in months. And he's moved away from the backyard trail builds, and he's doing a whole lot more professional builds now. So it means his video edits, they're slowed down a lot, which sucks. I miss watching those videos. He's so creative. He's such a talented guy. But now when the video comes out, the feature is going to be banging. Like his woodwork is just incredible. So
So the boner one that you built, because in my mind, I feel like it would have some spring to it. Like, does that mess with you at all when you're riding on it, or?
No, it's got a tiny bit of a bounce, but at the speed you're hitting it, you don't notice it at all.
So you're like,
that's like
before it's like recoiling or something, basically.
Well, like when I say it's got a bit of a bounce to it, I'm talking, an inch. So that amount of play, you're really not noticing it. Like you get a lot more play out of your shocks than you do out of the out of the suspension than you do out of the actual log itself.
You had built, like, what was the first feature that you built up there?
The first proper one I built was, I call it the stump drop. So there was a big old wooden stump just sticking out of the ground in the middle of the trail. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, I could probably turn that into a drop one day. So that ended up being the first proper build where I built like 5-meter bridge up to it. You just drop off the other side. Before that, there was a couple of other small little dirt jumps and stuff like that, but nothing major.
Was that the one where you built like kind of like you had a name for it, like it was a gap, but then you built like a little bridge in the gap?
A chicken bridge.
Yeah,
that was it.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a while ago now, but it's always interesting when you're building your own features. The whole time I was building, it's like, oh, I've got this, I can hit this, no worries, like easy. And then it comes time to riding it, it's just been building up in your head, and like, nobody has ever ridden this before. Like, what's the speed? How am I supposed to hit it? And so just kind of got a bit scared, a bit nervous, packing my dacks there.
Yeah.
But so I built myself, what I call the chicken bridge, which is just a removable down ramp for it. And it's actually, I'm really happy that I did that because it's made the trail so much more accessible for everyone that comes and rides it now. We can just drop that into place. And if they're not very, confident it drops, we've got that there. They can just start to build up, and then, before they know it, they're actually hitting a gap. We've removed the chicken bridge and away we go.
Yeah. No, that when I saw it, I was like, dude, that's really rad. And I thought that was really cool that you could remove it as well. So like, I totally relate with you, man. I'm not real big on jumping, but to have something like that where it can build your confidence. I rode in this place in Southern California not too long ago. I'm actually working on editing the video right now. And all of the drops like have that kind of thing built into them. So it's
Yeah,
like,
right.
it's not removable. They're just there, And so
Mm.
like at first, whenever when I got there in the morning, it was like, I would come up the features and I would kind of like slow down and go around the side of them. And then I noticed, like, no, they all have the ability to roll,
They're all rollable. Yeah.
and then at that, then the next time you go down, you're like, okay, well, I can just send it. And if it doesn't feel good, then I'm not going to like fall into some hole, like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
like, it's good, so yeah, that's good for
Do
like
you,
building confidence,
yeah. Do you think it takes away from the feature at all? I mean, I guess it takes away from the gnarliness and the extreme of mountain biking, but
I think there's two parts to it. I think on one hand, it doesn't change the way that it rides.
no,
You jump
you can
over it,
still
you know what I
you're
mean?
still
So
bending it. Yeah.
yeah. So you're still like flying through the air, the same amount of space and whatever. But I think there is something to say, for the actual gap to be there. You know what I mean? Because it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, no, I actually have to make this. Like, I can't like
Yeah.
accidentally not, you know?
Yeah. Definitely. No, I'm the same. I think, yeah, hitting it when there's a gap there is a lot more gnarly, and you probably feel a lot better about myself. Yeah, it's a lot more challenging, and so I love that.
Yeah,
But then also having those progressive trails there where they do have the down ramps is so good for the sport to,
yeah,
getting everyone progressing in a safe manner, right? Like,
yeah. I've hit some pretty big tables and like nailed them, Like I'm like, right on, dude. And that's like super exciting. Like 20 foot, So it's like
yeah,
that's like no joke, But
no,
man, you dig a
seriously.
hole in the middle of that thing, and I am not
I'm not
going anywhere
touching it.
near it, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like,
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
yeah, it's so weird. It's like such a weird mental thing, but
But that's it.
yeah. The fear for me is like the consequences of how long I can't ride if I get hurt. That's really what it comes down to. For a long time, I didn't I always trusted my skill set, and I like really was confident in that. And at one point I had a failure on my bike that caused me to separate my shoulder, and I couldn't ride for like 6 months. And
Yeah, right.
that was horrible because this is like my therapy, and I
Yeah,
didn't have another
yeah.
therapy. My only other therapy was like get drunk, and that doesn't apparently like work very well. So
That's not the healthiest option, but yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's like it feels good at the time, but then like not always, So like
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, and so like after that, I was just really really cautious, And so the last couple of years, I've definitely got back to pushing the limits more, but I still have that, I don't want to be hurt. I don't, and it's like not because I'm worried about not being able to work, or it really comes down to just not being able to ride. And I know I go crazy if I don't have that kind like that outlet,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I push myself, very slowly. I'm the same. I don't want to get hurt. And I because I'm my own boss, like I run my own design business, if I break my hands or wrist or something, like, oh shit, I've got no money. I've got no income coming in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely something to think about. But yeah, I'm a pretty tame rider, and
Hmm.
usually push myself just in small amounts so slow progression, and I'm happy with it. I'm having a great time out there. I mean, I'm not
I
going to
think
get a Red Bull helmet in.
for a guy that's only been riding for a couple of years, I feel like you're doing a lot more than a lot of guys that have been riding for a lot longer. So,
Oh,
I mean,
awesome.
you're hitting gaps and big drops, and like you have that skinny that goes over Leech River or whatever you want to
Yeah,
call it.
the Leech Creek. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's still nerve wracking every time I ride over that. But I guess that one actually, that was one where people in the comments are like, this isn't skinny. I mean, because I put it up on Reddit, and
Yeah.
was some interesting comments on that. There was two groups of people. One's are like, that's not skinny, and then the other group is like, that's insane, like that's way too skinny. What are you doing? And not really anything in between. But for me, it's wide enough to ride along if it was straight on, but I built it so it's got this kind of awkward turn onto it, which was always the plan, because it's kind of like a squirrel catcher that really stops anyone that doesn't have the skills to actually be riding across something that has a high drop either side from even getting into that trouble in the first place. So that's what actually makes it the hardest. If you could just ride straight onto it, anyone could probably ride it with not much trouble at all. But I'm definitely building stuff that sort of challenges myself, and I guess it's easy to progress when you do have these features in your backyard.
Yeah, no. It's fun to build like challenging things. So I mean, the trail that I helped build over COVID, like it had some features in it where like when we were building it, I was like, this is stupid. Like this is really dumb. We should not be riding this, but once you get it done, you're like, well, we have to ride it before we can let other people ride it. Like it's like we built it. And it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna do it. But it really like helped really helped my like make my skill set, stronger. And even now it's like, okay, and now we're building another trail and it's got more stupid stuff on it that I'm gonna have to do. Hopefully it works out.
It's always getting bigger and bigger, doesn't it, as you go?
Yeah. That's the thing that's for a good period of my cycling history, like I didn't really care about progressing. Like it was just like, I'm fine with where I'm at, just go out, have fun and ride these trails. And as long as I can ride, X amount of miles with X amount of elevation, like that's good enough. And I was fine with that for that period of time, but now I'm definitely in a more of a like progression kind of phase. And the thing with that is like the better you get, like the more you progress that way, the higher your opportunity for failure becomes. You know what I mean? Like the risk gets worse. So I had a cousin I was talking to the other day on the phone about mountain biking. He's like, man, I just don't want to get like super injured. So I don't know if I want to get into it. And I'm like, look, dude, if you're just riding regular trails and like doing like being normal, you know what I mean? Like you're not going to get hurt. Like the worst thing you're going to do is take a bunch of skin off of something.
Or anything.
Yeah, you might maybe you could break your arm or something like that if you fell in some weird rock or something like that. But I was like, dude, for the most part, you're going to be completely fine. I was like, on the other hand, you start doing drops and like just stupid technical stuff at speed. It's okay. Now you're in a different zone now, like.
Which is always how it is. That's how it progresses. You get addicted to mountain biking, and you're just slowly pushing yourself, whether you're realizing you're progressing or not. You're just like, you know what? I think I could hit that drop now, or I reckon I can pop over those rocks. And I guess that's what I love, that adrenaline rush that sort of comes with it.
Do you have a full face helmet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tend to ride that. Go
ahead.
I tend to ride with a full face as much as possible now, unless I'm doing a lot of climbing or something and it's a pretty cross-country trail. But I don't know. I follow sort of crash reels on Instagram and people just smashing their face on trees, and it's like, screw it. I'll just wear a full face. I don't care.
Yeah, I need to get into that zone, man. The problem is I've been riding bikes for so long. It's like, when I first got a full face, in my mind, I was always like, oh, I'm going to wear this for when it's serious, But then I would be like on some trail that I'm doing 30 miles an hour down some freaking, rocky section, or 25 miles an hour. You know what I mean? It's like just cooking with a half shell. And I'm like, why am I doing that? Oh, because I've always ridden this trail in a half shell. So like, I'm fine. Right. And the realism is like what you just said. It's like you screw up and you hit a tree at that speed and you're freaking dead, like,
I figured,
So
yeah, I've got it, so I might as well wear it. And one of the things that sort of stopped me at first was I didn't want to be that guy wearing the full face out on the hill and people be like, wow, like this guy must be a shredder. He's like, no, it's actually just my second week on the bike. But
yeah,
yeah, and then I just sort of realized like, hey, that's my safety. I don't really care. If
yeah,
you think I'm an idiot for wearing a full face, whatever. It is
yeah,
what it is. But and that's always in my head. The reality is no one's looking at you. Nobody cares anyway. It's
yeah.
always just,
Nobody gives a shit, and the people that are
yeah.
going to be judgy, like you don't really give a shit about what their opinion
No,
is
that's
anyway.
it. And then
You know
you
what I
realize
mean?
the judge is like, actually, I don't care. Fuck you.
Yeah, 100%, man. I really need to get better at it. I'm slowly getting better at it. The one thing I can say is I like wearing goggles more than wearing glasses by a long shot.
Yeah, I don't have
They're
goggles. I need to invest in some goggles.
yeah,
I don't
definitely
even wear
pick some.
glasses. Like I'm just out there freeballing. Some eyes are sort of sweating and bugs are flying
Yeah,
into my eyes and stuff. And every time that happens, I'm like, fuck, I need goggles. And then straight away another bug's in the eye. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
I'll get around to it one day.
That's funny, man. Yeah, it like I'm one of those guys that like sweats a ton. So the goggles like really do a good job. Like they don't like you don't sweat over your glasses then. So
Yeah.
like constantly with glasses, I'm like always have to take them off and like wipe them off because I've like got some big sweat drip that came down the middle of it or
Yeah,
something like
right.
that. So but I really enjoy it for that reason. But I don't know. Overall, I've definitely gotten better. Like if we're doing a shuttle day, even on our local trails, I'm like, okay, dude, we're just going downhill. I'm wearing the full face. You know,
Yeah.
I'm getting better at it, but I really wish that I feel like I need to make more of an effort to get better than I already am. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm thinking now as well, there's a lot of time when I'll be out digging on the trail. So you'll see in my videos, there is a lot of them that I'm doing the test rides in just my half shell.
Mm-hmm.
But that is like I'm riding 20 meters of trail and it's just
Yeah.
practicing on the berm or something. As soon as it's like, all right, I'm hitting this drop or something and actually testing the
Uh-huh.
feature. Yeah, I take the full face out.
Yeah.
Mm.
Did you so the feature that you did on the Bikes Online video for I'm gonna explain it to people. It's basically you come in to this berm, and as you're going to the berm is actually doing like a 360-degree circle, and then you're jumping over the trail that you came into on. So that one, at least on the video when I watched it, you didn't use a chicken ramp. Did you just maybe not include that in the video, or you actually
You
just
can't
sent
like
it?
just had to send it. Like because the drop on it is it's probably about shoulder height as you ride by. So
Mhm.
if there was a chicken bridge there, the chicken
Oh,
ramp,
you couldn't ride by. Yeah.
you couldn't ride by it, right? So I was there like, oh crap, I've got to hit this for the first time, just go for it. But it
So
was a
how do
similar
you
size.
figure out your speed though?
Well, that was a challenging part because the feature evolved, and editing that video was a tricky one because it ended up being, I think it was 24 days to build or something. So what
Uh-huh.
was the original plan in the first part was just that sort of 360-degree loop. I always wanted a trail gap, but it was just going to be like a little kicker that launched you over it. So it would have
Yeah,
been
like
like
it
a
wouldn't be
couple
that big,
feet
like a little
bump or
3-footer or
something.
something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then as I was like halfway through it, I was like, you know what? I could build a really nice wooden drop here as well, and that would just look epic. And so I did. And then obviously with the bigger drop, I needed a whole lot more speed. So then the berm had to get much taller. And it ended up being like, it's sort of like a meter, like 3 or 4 feet tall in places, that
Mm-hmm.
berm. So you could really just rail it. And it was coming into it at full speed, just making sure that I had enough to clear that gap again.
Mm-hmm. So
Um,
you would just run up on it and be like, this doesn't feel right. Because you have to run up it at speed to feel comfortable that you think you can make it, but also be able to have enough time to stop before you
Well,
accidentally
that was
fall
the
off the end of
challenging
it.
part. That's what was so challenging is like doing speed tests. And like I was doing them, I didn't show too many in the video, but every day I was out there. I mean, it was already so fun to ride just having the loop without the drop. So I was riding it and practicing it, got much better at the turns and stuff. And honestly, for so long there, right up until the very end, I was like, this feature isn't going to work. I thought I was going to have to rip out the wooden section of it and turn it into sort of a downhill kicker again or something. But I slowly just built it up taller and taller. That's what I was going to say. Yeah. So doing the actual speed tests was really tricky because at the tightest part of the turn, which was up the top, is where you need to start braking. So you stop in time for the actual feature. And
so you're at like 12 o'clock and then you have to jam on the brakes before you get to 3 and
pretty much you're slow. Yeah. So you're slowing down and then, and so that was really hard because it's like, well, I'm not even facing the actual drop at this point. So it's so hard to gauge the speed that I had and whether it was going to be enough. And then you'd also be gaining speed coming out of that corner downhill towards the drop. So it was just like, I don't know. Eventually I was flying around the corner and braking at the top of it. And I was like, I think this is enough. I just have to send it.
How did you get the circumference of the circle? Like you just eyeballed it initially and like
eyeballed it.
You're like this, you feel like this will work. I mean, that to me,
I do all my stuff just eyeballing it.
Yeah. So you just kind of winged it.
And I knew like, just from experience as well, I knew it was going to be a tight berm. Even though like the thing's massive, but for the speed that you have, I was like, this is going to be tight. It's going to need to be tall and it's going to need to be steep. But you can see like I pushed it right out. There's a tree that's kind of growing up in the middle of it. So you ride across the base of a tree in one part. So really couldn't get any bigger circumference or radius than what it is. I was like, well, I just have to make it work in this spot, and that's what I've got to deal with. But I knew that it was going to have to be big, so I'd selected the spot.
I saw that tree, and I was wondering to myself why you didn't cut it down. Like in my mind, I was like, why do you like, you know?
I tried to have the least amount of impact on the natural environment out there as possible. Yeah.
No, I mean it works. It's cool that it's there.
Yeah.
Like
I know. I guess it adds to the feature and stuff. So, I mean, there have been some smaller trees that I've removed for the sake of the trail, but I try to do as little as that as possible. So there's ones where there's dead trees and stuff, and so I'll remove those and build something out of it. But at least because I'm working with wood as well, I know that if I do end up cutting down a tree at some point, none of that's going to waste. Like I'll be building something epic out of it as well.
Yeah. What's your dirt like there? Because when I'm looking at the videos, I mean, that berm or, you know, some of the other stuff that you built, like it looks like it's packed really well. Like it looks like a bike park. I mean, some places dirt doesn't do that very well, you know?
Yeah, no, I'm fortunate. So the top level, we've got about a foot of just this really dry, sandy, dusty stuff. So that actually drains well. And then underneath that is a nice level of clay pretty much over everywhere I've dug so far. And that clay has a mixture of sandstone in it as well. So in some places, it's just set like concrete.
Yeah, so once you dig that up and you kind of mix it, you know, it kind of gets mixed up once you dig it up and then you pack it in. It's like,
it's pretty good. You can see like, so some of the older berms that I built out of that stuff, like we've had ridiculous amounts of rain down here recently. And so some of the berms have copped an absolute beating, and you can see like lots of dirt has washed off the top, which is just expected over time. But there's some where they got a real good pack in from a lot of riding, and where all the tire tread is, that almost looks untouched, whereas the stuff that hasn't been packed in as much, you can see a lot of that sort of eroded away. So the new corkscrew berm, because there was severe storms during the build of that, it copped a beating early days. So I'll probably have to go out and kind of reshape it a bit. I mean, there's still so much dirt there that it's fine, but it's maybe not just as nice as and sharp and clean as I would have liked it to be. But
Yeah.
that's trail building. That's weather.
Does it rain there all year, or like what, do you get snow where you're at?
Australia, we don't get much snow at all anywhere. There's like the Snowy Mountains National Park, and that's kind of like a really small section of mountains.
Is that where you would go skiing? Or I was like, wait a minute, I thought you said you skied. Okay.
Yes. There's a couple of, we've got like sort of 5 ski resorts or something.
Okay.
And they're about 3 hours away from me, but I'm on the coast, so that's a little bit further inland.
Mm-hmm.
Rain, it's Australia. Like we're usually in drought, but things have flipped for the last 2 years. It's like El Nino, which
I
know is the weather pattern. So we've had, last year was a really wet summer, and it looks like it's going to be the same again. Winter was not too bad here. We didn't get all that much rain, but I mean, it was only sort of 3 years ago that all of Australia was on fire. So I much prefer the rains.
I understand where you're coming from there. California does the same thing. We just burn all the time. So
crazy wildfires.
Yeah. Fortunately, this year, I mean, there were a handful of them, but it wasn't as many in the area, like close to where I live. So that was nice, because last year it was like, it felt like every fire that started was just taking out another trail system. You were like, really? Like, what is going to be left? It was kind of depressing.
Yeah, no, it's pretty, heavy days.
Fortunately, there's a lot of really good trail advocacy groups out here that can get to building really quick, and they got a lot of things open back up. I was surprised how quickly they made it happen.
That's awesome. Everyone working together for it.
Yeah. Like I didn't know how, what's the word I'm looking for? Like how good it felt to like build trails until I actually built trails. Like the first couple of times that I had went out and did some like trail work, I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, I feel like I did my part, pat myself on the back, like, right on, you helped. Okay, you're good for another year, like, but then once but then once I started like actually like building, to go out and build something from scratch and then like ride it and adjust it and fix it, and then it just becomes like this passion where, like, for us, most of the time, like in California, it's so dry, so you don't really build in the summertime. And so it's like this time of year right now, it starts raining, you're like, sweet, I'm at it, and like during the summer, I'm like, this winter, I'm just gonna ride, screw that building, and then like as soon as it happened, like the rain comes, it's like, well, let's go work on this one thing real quick. And it's like one time out there on the trail and you're sucked right back in again. You're like, all right, this is all I want to do now.
You're addicted. It's so like, it's the best feeling, just riding your own features as well, or inviting my friends down and seeing them see the trail for the first time and riding it, and just like, this is insane. Like, that's a great feeling. Chasing my mates down the trail, nothing beats that.
Yeah, it's really fun for me to like see the people on like Strava or whatever that are riding it, and you're like, to see like some of the times that people have, and you're like, that's just freaking crazy, like how fast they're going, or just like the pure like man, there's like a couple hundred people that have like ridden this thing, and they're like super like they're stoked about it, they had a good time or whatever, and like that feels cool,
Yes, so that's where I'm at, like, because this is just private property, backyard. It's actually my dad's property, and I rent one of the houses off it, so we can't exactly have the public come out there or anything, but that's kind of what I want to do in the future. I'd love to be able to, if the YouTube channel grows big enough, and say I'm actually earning a living out of producing these videos, is to go to like a local mountain bike club and be like, I want to, spend the next couple of months doing exactly what I've done on my property, but doing it here for the public.
Yeah.
And so then people can actually, like, once the trail opens everyone can come ride it, and I reckon that would just be the best feeling.
What's
Legally,
it like
I'm not
in
sure
Australia? Like, is Australia pretty like liberal or cool with building trails, or are they kind of like it's a real pain in the ass to make it happen? Like, what's the kind of the government stance on it?
Well, I'm probably not the best person to ask because, yeah, I've never professionally undertaken a project like that or anything. I think, like, yeah, it's very frowned upon to be out there making illegal trails. If the council finds out, they're always knocking down jumps and stuff like that. But there have been,
that's pretty typical. But I mean,
yeah,
I don't know, exactly in California, but like generally speaking in California, it's really hard to get things approved. So I think that's
there's always so much red tape that you have to go through to get it properly.
yeah. Is
I
it
hear
like
that
that
it's
in
easier.
Australia? Or?
Yeah, I hear that it's easier to just go build your trail first. And this is not my advice to anyone listening, but go build your trail first and then go to council and be like, well, look, all these people are already using it. You may as well approve it now.
Yeah, kind of like grandfathered in. Yeah.
Yeah, but it sort of depends on, location, because we've got our national parks down here, and there's been a big push. A lot of stuff has sort of gone through with building proper bike parks, or not even bike parks, but bike trails within national parks. And so they're taking that on and getting the bicycle community involved in that. But the government is investing a lot of money into new trails and new bike parks properly being built, which is awesome. I'm just not sure about, say if you opened up a new mountain bike club and how easy it is to then go to your local council and get them involved. And it will definitely change from location to location, town to town.
Do you guys have like a bunch of multi-use trails, or is it just like a bunch of like mountain bike specific or bike specific trails, or is it like anything that was a hiking trail you can ride on?
There would be multi-use trails around. I'm trying to think. I mean, most of the hiking trails will probably just be hiking trails, and then we've got bike dedicated trails.
I see.
But where I started riding, they were all illegal trails. It's all illegal networks and stuff. So no one's really meant to be on them. But they're definite. It was steep downhill stuff. So there'll be the occasional runner or something, a walker on it, but they were definitely out of place there. But where there are big,
the downside is that like the poach stuff, the illegal stuff is usually like the really fun riding. That's the downside. Is like because they are not building sustainably, that's what actually makes it really fun. So it's like a catch-22, right?
Yeah, there's some really big companies and stuff over here that are doing some pretty awesome builds. I mean, but yeah, you do. I see all the time, everyone's complaining about all the new machine-built flow trails, and it's sort of getting rid of tech. But there's still some tech trails getting built out here and stuff. So I'm excited. In my area, there's not actually any proper like major mountain bike networks, but we've had sort of $12 million being invested. So early, I think it's sort of April next year, there should be 2 decent sized bike parks opening within an hour's drive of me. So I'm really pumped for that. And they're building a good mix of flow and technical downhill trails as well, and cross country as well. So no, it's gonna be good. I mean, the scene's definitely blowing up down here, and I assume it's everywhere. But I think the government and council are realizing that mountain bikers generally have a fair bit of disposable money, and you get them traveling to town, they're going to bring a bit of money with them. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, I think some places are catching on. I think as more time goes by, that'll continue to happen. But as cities see other cities, be revived or have this huge steady income from people doing the sport, it'll just continue. So
yeah,
it is interesting though in some places where they're just like completely like, nope. It's like, you got to be kidding me, man.
Yeah. The fun police.
Yeah, right. It's just yeah, like Santa Cruz, for example. They have the University of California Santa Cruz campus has like trails that are in magazines, and they're all illegal, you know, and
Right.
uh, and it's like hundreds of cars parked there like every weekend, and like mountain bikers everywhere. So like that economy there is like there's probably $2 million like spent in that city every weekend just from people like getting gas and food and whatever,
And
like people
beer.
do when they're in
Yeah.
your town, and but all those trails are illegal. It's like it's just
Right.
so
Do they try and police it at all, or they're just like, well, they're illegal, but
every
go
once
have
in a
your fun?
while, like for the most part, they're like looking the other direction, right? Like because
Right.
it's like it's obvious. Like you could
Yeah.
say like, oh, those cars that are parked in that parking lot, they're all hiking the hiking trail that's there. But it's like,
Yeah.
no,
Right.
every one of those cars has a roof rack or a tailgate pad on it. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
they're not here for hiking, So so you get what I'm saying. So
Those
but
things, they just
sometimes
seem
they'll
like
be out
such a
there.
no-brainer. Like,
Yeah.
come on, council. Like, who's the old fuddy dud that just hates biking or whatever, and just has
Yeah.
this outdated mentality? Like, get them out of
Yeah.
council.
Yeah, who knows what it is? It's probably some like red belly tree frog that they're like, no, you're gonna screw up the habitat. It's not gonna stay alive. And you're like, dude, they've been riding bikes there for like
It's
30 or
there
40
already.
years. The
Yeah.
frog's still there.
Yeah.
Like, well, yeah, who knows, right?
Yeah.
I'm probably
But also
pissing
then
somebody.
making it legal. Like, if you turn those trails legal and you actually get people building them properly, it's way more better for the red tree frog or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Like, you can,
Yeah.
yeah,
I just
like,
made up
I
that
don't know.
animal too. That's
Yes,
probably
yeah,
not
I
real.
figured.
So yeah, no, it's no, that's a very good point. I think that then you can build stuff that is sustainable, and you can build stuff that's sustainable and fun too. Like you can actually make some pretty sick trails that are sustainable. It's just a
For sure.
matter of like just doing it properly. And when you have like a handful of jokers out there with a McLeod and a handsaw, you're not going to get sustainable.
Yeah.
That's just not the way it works
Yeah.
out. But yeah, it's very interesting seeing the sport grow in the manner that it has over the last, to be honest, like the last like 15 years probably, where it's just it's definitely really, really changed. And I think, in the more near history, just like since COVID, where like think about it this way, like 10 years ago, you never saw like a Toyota truck commercial with them having mountain bikes over the tailgate.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? And like that's like an ad now. It's like, oh, there's a Subaru. It has mountain bikes on the roof rack. You
Yeah,
know what
it's a
I'm saying?
lifestyle.
Like,
Selling a lifestyle. Yeah. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
I mean, that tells you something. Like they're like, oh, back then it was like, hey, look, here's a tent right next to their car. And they're like, oh yeah, that's what the people that buy that car do. They go tenting, like but now they're like they're catching on. So
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Do you think it's a bubble that could burst?
This is the thing. I was thinking about that earlier as we were talking, and the thing for me that I don't think so is just because it's bikes, and bikes have been around now for so long, right? And you think if they were like not somehow appealing to people, that like I feel like they would have lost their like coolness by now. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
like there would have been some new thing where people were like, screw these things. We're going with the one wheel skateboards now, like, and it seems like bikes have been along or around just for so long, and they're like so practical in so many different ways. And it's a skill that so many people, like most people, I wonder what the like the percentage is. I bet you it's like 90% of people know how to ride a bike. You know what I mean? Like it's got to be
I reckon
super
you might
high.
be it would be high, but I reckon you might be surprised. Like I
Yeah.
can remember I've worked with a few people like, yeah, I don't know how to ride a bike. Or they were like, I was 17 years old teaching myself how to ride a bike out in the car park and stuff. And, I could
Yeah.
ride a bike from the time I could walk. So that sort of just blew my mind. But
Yeah. It blows my mind too. My daughter's in college. She has a friend that doesn't know how to ride a bike, and we keep joking around about making a video on my channel of me teaching her how to ride bikes.
yeah, you should do that. That'd be classic.
Yeah, I feel like she has to be 21 first, though, because like a good part of riding bikes to me is drinking beer. So I'm like, well, now all of a sudden I got in trouble for supporting underage drinking.
Well, no, just bring it to Australia. We're allowed to drink at 18. So
Oh, there you go. Sweet. Now I need a budget. Everybody that's not on Patreon, get on there so we can go to Australia. Yeah, I have to start a new hashtag. I recently went to Jamaica and rode. That was super fun. And it definitely has given me the bug to like go to other countries and ride.
yeah, that would have been awesome. I haven't, because I got into it right at the start of COVID. So then travel was all out. And then during COVID, I started building my mountain bike trail. And then I moved down there and really stopped working all that much. Because I mean, the trail and YouTube just takes up so much of my time. So
Yeah.
I didn't have too much time to be earning a lot of money. So then now I'm broke and I can't travel, which is fine. Like, I'm just riding these bikes here, but it just means that there's so many places, even just within Australia, that I've never got to explore yet or ride. So there's a long list of places I want to go check out. Before I get overseas.
Do you want to keep your content like as like building content only, or do you want to do like ride content too, or what are your plans for the channel?
Realistically, like I love the building content, and that's really what I'm drawn to. But realistically, I think if I want to actually be able to do this full time, I'm probably going to need to have some filler content in between the builds, which would have to be riding content or something, something along those lines. So I'm toying with the idea now. Like I've got the Marin bike, so I can do maybe a bike review type thing and actually get out there and show some of the other trails around me. But I am sort of limited to the number of trails that are available that I feel that would do well on YouTube at the moment, that's sort of within close driving range. And also
this is what I say to people every time that they tell me something like that is Seth started his channel where there's not even a fucking hill.
Right. Exactly. That's it. It's just making excuses for myself. And because I was like, exactly that. And then also I'm like, well, I don't feel like I'm a good enough rider for anybody to watch. But
that doesn't matter.
Like, no, exactly. Especially in the comments and stuff. And people are like, I love that I can relate to you riding and you're showing the stuff where, I am chickening out of hitting drops and I show the raw stuff. I'm not trying to be like, hey, look, I'm a professional rider. That's awesome. It's like, no. And people really come along for that progression in my riding as well. So there's been a bunch of comments that are like, dude, you should do some riding videos. We'd love to watch that.
Yeah, I mean, you could do a video on you trying to learn how to do a wheelie, or you trying to learn how to do a manual, or like there's a ton of stuff that way, or you like figuring out how to fix some component or something. There's a ton of content out there that doesn't have to be trails, and that can be like really like entertaining or really inspiring or whatever. Like that's the one thing, because I do the same thing as you, man. Don't I'm good at giving advice, not good at like taking my own as well, though, just like every other person. So yeah, I definitely do the same thing where I'm like, well, I don't know what I would make. And then it's like, I think about it. And I'm like, I give myself the Seth answer. It's like, dude, that guy like started one of the biggest like mountain bike channels in like a state that's like flat, that doesn't really even like have mountain biking, it's like, so obviously like you can like, that's the like that's the proof that you just got to be creative of what you
Exactly.
come up with.
And people are there for your personality and stuff.
Yeah,
It's not just like no, it's been
I
really
think
good,
you
and
have
I've
a really
got
good.
a great community as well. My community seems pretty strong. Like all my videos get a lot of engagement and comments and feedback and this and that.
Mhm.
I think like once you've got those people, invested in your channel, they're willing to watch almost anything. They're like, all right, cool. Well, as long as you make
Yeah,
it entertaining for us, we'll watch it.
yeah. Well, I think you also don't have a lot of creators in Australia, so like mountain bike creators.
Yeah, there's no, we really don't have any big ones. We don't have
Yeah.
any. I don't think we've actually got any people that are doing mountain bike YouTube full time.
Hmm.
Which, but like there are a lot of small ones. I'm not sure whether the market here is big enough to support an Aussie mountain bike YouTuber.
I think it is because you can still
Yeah.
get people from all over the whole world, but
Well, see,
you'll have
that's the
but you'll
challenge,
have
though.
people. Go ahead.
That's what I found the challenge. I mean, for me, it's easy. Like I've got a bigger audience in America than I have in Australia because that's just through the trail building and stuff. But the challenge for the other Aussie mountain bikers and stuff. So I'm not sure if you know of Froth. He's become a good mate. He's a
Yeah, I see
really
him on the comments. He's in
yeah,
here.
yeah. He loves it. He was the one who's like, dude, you have to do the podcast. Get on there. Like you're insane. I was like, all right, I'll do it. So he's got a really good channel and stuff, but he's struggling to break out of that Australian audience as well,
Mhm.
which can come right down to sort of thumbnails and titles. Like there's different approaches that you can do.
Yeah.
Because maybe to some American kid who's watching, it's like, oh well, I'm not going to Australia, so I don't really care what that trail looks like. It's like, all right, well, if he packages it differently, then there's possibility that people all over the world will watch it. It doesn't necessarily.
I think about
Like,
that all the
I watch
time,
so
though.
much overseas. Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
I know heaps of trails in America that I'll probably never get to, but I love watching the content. So it's just packaging it and starting to build that audience.
Yeah. Because like even for me, like I ride a lot of my local trails over and over and over again in my videos, and there's plenty of people in like Minnesota and New Hampshire and Singapore that are watching me ride this trail that is not
Yeah,
even like a trail that they're like, oh, I'm going to fly to California so I can ride Auburn. Like they don't give a shit
yeah,
about that.
yeah,
So like it's really
yeah.
just it's the story, or it's the like the personality of the person. So I think you nailed it though when you said the thumbnail stuff too. Like that's the way. I mean, what I always tell people is like your thumbnail that's like your pickup line, and if you don't have a good pickup line, you're gonna go home alone, So
Right.
like that's your
Yeah,
first
that
chance.
was like one of the biggest things learning for me, like coming to YouTube, was doesn't matter how good your video is, if nobody clicks on that thumbnail, then it doesn't matter. So I've done like deep dives into trying to learn thumbnails and work out
Yeah.
what works. Especially coming from a graphic design background, you got to throw so much of the learning. Like you can design a thumbnail that looks nice, but it's not going to earn a click. And
Yeah.
so that's been the challenge, just trying to work out sort of how to earn that click, which
The
is it's
thumbnail for
happening.
the corkscrew, the thumbnail for the corkscrew trail is just freaking dialed. Like you can,
Yeah,
like
so
it just looks
that's
so
what I was
rad.
saying.
You're like, oh, I need to click on that. Like I
Yeah,
want to see what's
and
going on
I
here.
knew building it, I was like, this is going to be a thumbnail that will blow up the channel. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that
Yeah.
it's sort of worked that way. But I've sort of stuffed up. Well, I'm not sure whether I've stuffed up, but it's because I used that thumbnail for the Bicycles Online video, which is kind of a trail tour. I don't even actually ride the corkscrew in that video because it wasn't finished.
Right.
And then I've got the build episode, which is it's almost an identical thumbnail. And
Hmm.
so I'm not sure, like the thumbnail originally worked really well and it's working really well for my channel, but I'm not sure whether it could be working even better if it was a different angle of the feature with me riding it. Because I think there's definitely can be some confusion because it's had the Bicycles Online videos now had over 130,000 views. So then my video that came out 2 weeks later with almost an identical thumbnail is being served to those same people. At a glance, they're just like, oh, I've seen that video, and keep going.
Yeah.
When in reality, it's actually a completely new build video, and the one like a direct follow-up from that video. I was like, well, now I'm writing this feature, so check it out.
Yeah. Because the one on bicycles, was it bikes online? That
Bikes
is
Online.
like you're building it. So the other one on your channel is just you riding it.
No, so the Bikes Online one is it's it's kind of like a 10-minute long channel trailer. So everything it showcases all the major builds that I've done so far, and then has a top to bottom trail run at the end of the video, which I also introduce the corkscrew feature.
That's what it is. Okay, yeah. Okay.
But it was after a lot of rain. The speed wasn't there, so I couldn't hit it, which kind of worked out perfect, because it's like it was a way then to get people like, well, I need to see him hit this amazing feature because it looks pretty gnarly. There's trees everywhere.
I feel, I mean, it worked, because that's what happened for me. Like, I watched that. I think they're like pushing ads or something like that. I watched the video because the thumbnail was sick. I clicked on it, then I watched it, and then it was entertaining. And then when I got to the end of it, you were like, oh, this feature's not done. So then it's like, okay, well, you're like, hey, but if you want to check out my channel over here, and I'm like, well, shit, right there, all I gotta do is click it, and boom, that, like, next thing you know, I was at your channel. So no, it really worked out well. So, but I do think what you're saying about the thumbnail being so close for the other, like the video on your channel, maybe another angle,
I've been out there. I've been trying to take photos, and I keep coming back. I'm editing them in Photoshop, and it's like, it just doesn't pop the same way as that photo in that other thumbnail does. But
what if you use different words on it, like
well, it is different words. So but I mean, I've still, I don't know. I mean, it's working really well for my channel. It's got almost 20,000 views, which is 15,000 more than my next best video. So personally, for me, it's doing well. It's
I wish YouTube had like an A/B, like you could put two thumbnails up and see like how they go.
Like that feature has to be coming. Everybody's screaming for it, and like all the creators. It just makes so much sense. But I guess it'll come.
I don't understand where it's things. There's certain things that companies, like, for whatever reason, they're just like, screw you guys, we're not doing that. And it's like
it's better for them though as well. Like, they get to know, like, they're getting two options, and they're like, well, this is the better one. It could be the best video ever, and like we say, and nobody's clicking it, and then YouTube's like, oh, well, we won't show it to anyone because nobody's interested. But then if we're giving them two options, that's twice the chance for that video to get a lot more views, and that's more people then staying on YouTube and watching YouTube. Like, it's beneficial for them as well.
It's probably something like this. It's probably like, if they give that option, it's going to cost them like $100 million more in storage.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. It's like double the bandwidth that they need for thumbnails in.
It's just like, because like that's probably what it is. Honestly, now that I think about it from like an IT perspective, it's probably like, but we have like, 3 trillion videos, and if X amount are uploaded every day with 2 thumbnails, this is what we're going to end up with. It's like, nah, it just doesn't.
But you can do it so it's like, I don't know, it runs, you upload 2, and after 2 weeks, whichever is the one that doesn't perform well just automatically gets deleted. Boom, gone.
Yeah, right. There you go. Son of a gun. See, you're a genius, dude.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but thank you.
What's your favorite feature that you built so far?
Oh, it's got to be that latest one, the corkscrew.
Yeah. Do you think it's always going to be the latest one?
No, definitely not. There's so the episode before that, I'm not sure if you watched it. I built like a roller, and then what was supposed to be like this little hip type thing, the hip just didn't work. I mean, it's a lot of my riding skill as well. And I knew ways that I could make it better, but it just flopped. So yeah, it's not always the latest feature, but
yeah,
I think
how
that,
I feel about my videos. I always like my last video the most.
right. Yeah, I mean, it's always the freshest. It's so good. But no, I think it's going to be hard for me to top this latest build. I mean, I've got some big crazy ideas. We'll just see when they happen and stuff. It's cool. The most hectic part about it now is I really need to build. So on the landing, you're just screaming straight towards two trees that is barely wide enough to get your handlebars through.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, because the first time you hit it, you finally go around the corner. We're doing spoiler. Hey, spoiler alert, people. We're going to screw this video up. But so he finally hits the corkscrew, goes around, freaking jumps the trail. He's super stoked. And then immediately you hear him ah! Trying not to run into some tree. So you said something about putting a bigger berm down there, maybe. I mean, I could see what you're saying. If you put a right-hander, you could come in with that speed into this berm, and then you wouldn't even be worried about the trees anymore.
Yeah. So, I mean, even in that video, the plan was to go to the right-hand side of those trees. I knew it was always going to be sketchy. But so it's planned because it's a really tight gap between the two trees right in the middle of the landing. But I had more strip speed than expected, and it's so loose, so I wasn't washing off much speed. And I was like, well, I'm not going to make this corner, so I just have to pin it between these two trees. And lucky it worked. But because I wanted to get the video out, it's I can't build the berm now. That's just going to take too long. I want to get this video out, so I'll hit it as is. But yeah, so the landing will be. I'm thinking of building it like a big wooden berm that sort of maybe goes a bit vertical into a wall ride that you can just mac into. You don't need to wash off any speed after the drop, and it just scoops you around to the left.
Oh, that would be right.
But it's going to require a lot of wood. Yeah,
right. Do you guys have plenty of trees there that you can use, or?
There's been with all this, with a really wet summer last year and all the rains now, it had been, we've been in a 20-year drought or something. So as soon as there was wet ground and some strong winds, some really big trees have come down on the property. So plenty of wood for me to work with and build with. Preparing the wood is what takes the longest. So you'll see in some of my videos, I've got an Alaskan mill and my chainsaw, and I'm just milling the timber. Again, it's heaps different here in Australia. I'm working with eucalyptus, which is a hardwood, really heavy, really dense, really strong. It's great to build with, and it's rot resistant, but it is tough. It's just
works the hell out of your chainsaw then, huh?
Oh man, every 3 meters, I have to sharpen the chain. And that's just using the Alaskan mill. And it weighs twice as much as cedar. It is a heavy wood to deal with. But I'm so broke. Me and Dad have just gone halves in my uncle as well. We've gone 3 ways in a hardwood timber mill.
Oh, nice.
It's over the property. I've got to set it up, but it means, we can use the tractor, drop a log on it, full-size log, sort of 5 meters long, and that should speed up the process of cutting my own lumber to work with. I mean, it's these expensive costs like that I have to earn so much money out of YouTube before this channel's profitable.
Yeah.
I'm $20,000, $30,000 in debt or something. I'm not going on any holidays. I'm eating 2-minute noodles every meal. This is just my life. All my money goes to the channel. So but I wouldn't have it anyway. I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah. The first year when after I started my channel, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna do my taxes. I'm gonna be able to write off all this bike stuff and this camera gear. And it was a real eye-opener when you're adding up all the money that you spend. You're like, holy crap. Wow. This is a lot. Wait a minute here.
I had mine up. pretty
Yeah.
scary to see how much I've spent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
good.
So you got a Patreon though. How's that doing?
Yeah, I actually started a Patreon a couple of months ago, and I didn't really tell anyone about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't actually ever advertised it. I think it's in my bio on Instagram
Mm-hmm.
and at the footer of my videos and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I really haven't been pushing it. I just wanted to add a bunch of content to it. So when I did push it, there was content there. But I actually got my first Patreon subscriber, I think last week or 2 weeks ago. So there's one guy in there checking out my posts, which is cool.
Right on.
But really, I do, as a designer, I kind of prefer to sell t-shirts. So that's really the route that I've been taking over Patreon, because I feel like my users could get a bit more out of that. Like I love designing t-shirts, and so I've got an online shop that with a print partner in America and Australia. So it goes globally if anyone wants to buy a t-shirt. So that's kind of how I'm pushing to monetize my stuff a little bit more at the moment, which is cool. There's a whole bunch of people that have bought shirts from around the world. There are lots of different countries, and so I think that's a really good start. So I've been pushing that more than the Patreon side of things, but I guess it's as it grows, I really should start, trying to diversify a little bit more.
Yeah. I always think about setting up the YouTube. Like YouTube has like its own kind of Patreon. I forget what they call it, but like
memberships, I think. Yeah.
And I always think, man, I should set that up, because at the end of the day, like it's really hard to get somebody to go to a different site and sign up for something. But like, I think the plus side is like, if they've ever given a super chat to anybody, like your credit card and all that stuff's already in there, so it's like they can just click that button and then boom, they're there, and to me, I'm like, I should do it. I really should. I think I wouldn't do it with all of the same like kind of features that I do with Patreon, but it would be more like hey, if you want to support me, like it's $1 and you get, whatever, a badge next to your name that you're a YouTube, whatever they call it, member or whatever, like maybe it would be something like that. But I don't know. There's like so much stuff with the channel that has nothing to do with you making content that you can waste your time on.
Right. Yeah. Especially like adding, if you do Patreon and the YouTube memberships, like, that's a whole nother thing that you have to update, plus your social media channels and stuff. Like,
yeah.
There's a lot
I used to post a lot of stuff on my website. Like every time I posted a video, I would do like a little different write-up on the trail over there. And then I would have like my like GPX file that you could download and a trail map to the area if you wanted to download,
cool.
like all this other stuff. And eventually I realized, I was like, dude, like I look at my visitor bandwidth log, whatever you want to call it, right? And it'd be like, dude, there's like barely anybody coming over here. I'm like spending all this time doing all this extra work for nothing. Like realistically, I need to stop. So I kind of set my website more up like now it pulls my Instagram feed and it pulls my YouTube feed. And other than that, it's like, my store's over there. Kind of like what you do. I use it like a direct to garment printer. So
same.
But so, but it's cool though. I mean, then it's all there. The only downside is I've been trying to think of if there's a way to, because I noticed that you can like, YouTube has like the t-shirt, like the plugin where you could like do like Teespring, or there's another one, Spreadshop, I think that they use.
But
I think there's a way to use a Shopify shop into that.
That's all new.
And so I've been really thinking about doing a Shopify shop that is actually getting injected from my direct to garment thing, so that I could actually get so I don't have to have two different things. So it would still be my t-shirts that I'm creating, but being able to get them on YouTube, I think that would be like big.
I'm the exact same way. So my website's set up, I built it all in WooCommerce, so WordPress, and
That's what I'm
seeing
using.
the
I'm using
Shopify.
WooCommerce and WordPress is what I'm using, and I use
Yeah,
Printful for my direct to garment. So
yeah, right. So I'm using Printify for mine because it's the quality of Printful in Australia I wasn't happy with.
huh.
So I've got like a real high standard of
Yeah. No, I'd like to
like
go check them out,
different
honestly,
stuff.
because the main reason that I chose Printful was there was some certain items that I really wanted, and I couldn't
Mm,
find them on other ones. Like I really wanted, like if I could find, like they had a really good trucker hat, and it wasn't like a flat bill one, so it was like, and then they had like the two-tone ones, like the gray and the black, and like those I really wanted those, and but I would love to find one that has like good hats like that. But then also like there's not many places that have like a good sport shirt, like a wicking shirt.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And if I could find one that has good hats and a wicking shirt, then I would be really stoked, because a lot of people, I think it would be rad. Like a lot of people don't like to wear cotton when they're riding,
Mm.
so it'd be rad to be able to like be printing it on something that's more like a wicking t-shirt.
Yeah, see, Printify, that's what's good about it. Like you can set it up to multiple shops within that. So say you find a
Yeah.
hat that one print provider does and then the shirt that the other one does. My problem with that, I haven't gone that route just because it ends up being two packages so one person buys both of those items and then they get two shipments and stuff. I'm just
Yeah.
not sure how logistically that works. And I don't know, do they pay
Yeah.
twice for shipping? And
Yeah, that's weird, huh?
yeah, it's a tough one. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's definitely possibilities of it. So the way mine's working at the moment, it's not the smoothest, but it's a good start. And
Yeah.
I'll probably end up building myself a Shopify website as well. And I'm actually toying with the idea of investing a chunk of cash and getting a whole bunch of shirts screen printed up. I mean, I actually do my own screen printing and stuff as well. That's always sort of been a passion
Mhm.
of mine. But at the scale that I want to do, it's just sort of not
Yeah.
optimal. I don't have time already, but
I don't
yeah,
feel like I sell enough shirts to quantify like getting them printed ahead of time.
yeah,
Like I would
right,
like to for the quality, and I would like to for like you can place your logos or your designs anywhere, and like
mm,
maybe online you can't, if you put a flag on your arm sleeve, you can't get it low enough, or at least maybe where I
yeah.
want it. You know
There's
what I mean?
definitely,
So like,
limitations to it for sure.
yeah, the idea of being able to like get them printed ahead of time, I really like that idea, where it's like, hey, you could put like a little like something written right under the collar right here, like right next to
Yeah,
the collar, like
yeah,
or like along the shoulder or something like that. Like you can't do that with the DTG stuff. So that part is like nice, but on the other hand, I just don't sell that many shirts. But
mm.
I was thinking about this the other day. I really do a shitty job telling people about it. You know, like,
That's always the thing. Hey, like, yeah, if no one knows, they're not buying it.
yeah. And like, it was like a realization to me the other day where I was watching a Seth video, Burn Peak, and he was saying like, hey, look at this. Here's my new shirt. And, you can go pick one up over at this link. And it's like, I wear my shirts in my videos all the time. And in my head, I just assume that people are like, hey, that says biker on it. They know that it's going to be in his shop, and
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
well, this one says
No,
Slow House
sometimes
on
people
it.
just need to sell it.
It doesn't say biker on it, So how are they going to
Yeah,
know that that's on your like, oh, that
yeah.
kind of makes sense, So
I've been
um
like t-shirts because I've always sort of loved screen printing and selling my own t-shirts and stuff. So that
mhm,
was always going to be a big part of my channel as well. And and also why I ended up calling it Cutlaps. I didn't want to have my name like, how Matt Jones is. His channel's name's Matt Jones. I was like, no, I'm going to set this up more as a brand that has legs to go beyond just YouTube and sort of
mhm.
sell t-shirts and stuff as well. So that was always a goal of that. And
So you could do a video on how you make a shirt that you're selling.
yeah, that could happen as well. If people
Yeah.
want to watch it, then I'm happy. Because that's
People will
definitely
watch
one of
it,
my
man.
passions. Like,
Yeah.
um, So yeah, I think, and that's where I give a t-shirt away every episode.
Yeah,
Which
I saw that. That's really
with
rad.
engagement and stuff. And it feels awesome, like sending them out to people, and people get really stoked on it. But it's also a really good way for me to let people know that there are t-shirts available. It's like, well, hey, you didn't win one. Well, you can head to the shop and buy it. Or it's just a really great way to support the channel. You get something, I make a small profit.
Yeah.
It's a win-win.
So how do you do that? Because YouTube is like really shitty for being able to communicate with your subscribers. So how do you like go from like you can't just pick somebody out and then like DM them? You know what I mean? So
No,
how do
I realized that in the first episode. I was like, wait, what the fuck? What am I supposed to do here? But I've got a good return audience, and it's usually like a day or two, like a comment comes through, it's like, oh, I won the shirt, awesome. And then I reply to that and be like, hit me up on Instagram or something. And I've also got my email in the about section. So they'll usually send an email through or something. They'll get in contact with me. I haven't had, actually, there's one person from the early days that has never got in contact. And I even went back to their original comment and be like, congratulations, you won a shirt. And they're like, cool. I don't know. I think they gave a thumbs up, and I was like, that was it. And I was like, you have to get in contact with me. And never came through. But I mean, it was probably
that was my personal account. You want me to send you my address?
Yeah, send it through. It's funny that it's probably just looked like, there's so many spam accounts of these fake people. I'm like, congratulations, you've won a bike. Just get in contact with Seth at, I don't know, whatever the WhatsApp or whatever. So this poor person's actually won a shirt. I'm trying to contact him, and he's just like, whatever, that's fake.
Right. Yeah, that's the way it goes, right?
Maybe he might see the episode eventually, like in a year's time or something. Be like, oh, I want a shirt, but never got it.
I don't know how to screen print. I feel like this is my next step of like the next rabbit hole I need to go down. I have a Cricut, so I'm doing everything with vinyl.
Yeah, right.
So, but I don't. So, how do you get from like? How do you get your design on a screen? Like, how does that like? Is there a like a cutting tool or something or?
No, so you've got a silk screen, and then so you get your design, and if it's just like a one color design, you print it in black. It's got to be a certain type of ink. Print it on black on paper. Cover that in oil so the white goes see through. And you got your screen print, which you put. It's called photo emulsion on it. So it's like this pink goo that dries, hard to touch, but it's not fully solidified yet. And you have a light table or a heat lamp.
Yeah.
And so then you burn the image onto the actual screen itself, and you have to do like, you have to set the perfect timer. Like it could be 60 seconds, or it could be like, depending on varying things. So 60 seconds will burn everything that's see-through in the image. So what was the white paper, that will go rock solid. And then where was black will remain soft. And so you go get a high pressure hose and you hose out what was black. So then you've got the image on
right.
Okay,
I get it.
It's mirrored and stuff. So you have to make sure that when you're putting it on, that like the text is being mirrored and reversed and stuff. And so then it's
I've screwed that up. I've screwed that up before too. So
that's it's always it's a bit of a learning curve. So it's quite a process to do your own screen printing.
And then obviously, I mean, it's the same process with vinyl. If you want different colors, then you're just like poaching out that
laying
like
it over the top.
one piece. So you're just laying it down separately.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Yeah, I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, I almost looked it up on YouTube. So when you mentioned it, I was like, oh, I get to find out this answer right now.
Yeah, I mean,
how'd you get into that?
I've just been creative my whole life, really. Like I sucked at English, maths, and science and stuff at school. But the creative subjects I'd excelled at. And so mum and dad were really supportive. And I think it's like, I don't know, maybe my 10th or 11th birthday, they gave me a screen printing home kit, which at that time I was just, using a scalpel to cut designs out of cardboard and just screen print it that way. And so I'd be starting my own little skate brands and screen printing up T-shirts and stuff. So
Oh,
yeah, it's
nice.
always been passionate. I haven't done all that much of it. Like I've done some screen printing courses, and then you get access to all their facilities and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a hobby that I'd like to do more of, but it's time consuming.
Yeah. I really like the ability, and I didn't know that I was a creative person. Like I never really thought of myself as like a creative person
Yeah, right.
until like it was a recent conversation with somebody, and they were like, it was and my wife was like, what are you talking about? You're super, because I said something like, oh, I'm not super like crafty, and she's like, dude, you're a 45-year-old guy with a Cricut making your own t-shirts and stickers and hats, and like you got a 3D printer because you're printing this thing that you want to make. Like, no, you're crafty. And I'm like,
yeah, that's pretty crafty, man.
Right. But I really I think for me, it's really the process of creating something. Like I was a musician earlier in my life, like I like to play guitar and stuff like that.
Awesome.
And like, it's always like, just like, it's really fun to make something. I think this is part of like the trail building too. It's like, there was nothing, and now you made this something, and it's just like really rewarding to like have something tangible that just came from a thought,
Yeah, no, it's so good. Especially, I mean, go back to the trail building as well. I've always been drawn to creating things like even snowboarding. I'd love to just go build sort of backcountry booters or whatever, or just find rocks to pop off. But even like going back to video games and playing Tony Hawk, I would spend so much more time building skate parks within Tony Hawk to skate and stuff, or like racing games, and I'll be building tracks to drive around. And I've always been driven to just create these different things.
My favorite toy when I was a kid was Legos. Like I thought that was the coolest thing. You just build stuff.
Yeah, so good. I never got too into Legos. Like we actually growing up, we had a big basket of it and played with it every so often, but I guess I just sort of grew out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay to grow out of them. That's totally fine.
Oh yeah.
We were poor. So the only way that I got we were poor. So the only way I actually got Legos was, this is a perk to my mom being a horrible cook and probably questionable on the parenting, but like we went to McDonald's a lot, and you would always have like Legos in the Happy Meal. So like that was like, it was like a double win for me. It was like you get a Happy Meal and you get Legos. I'm like, this is perfect.
Yeah, that's so good.
Now I'm 45.
Piece.
Yeah. So like, great job just making my diet choices horrible, Mom. Thanks, man. That's great. So we're just about at 2 hours here, and I always like to ask people what other creators they like to watch and like what are they into, because it's always fun to hear, and it doesn't even matter if it's mountain bike related or not. Just it's always fun to hear, and sometimes you run into some new stuff that you would never thought of. So
I got to throw out my boy Froth, Froff on YouTube. He's an Aussie mountain bike YouTuber putting in the time and the effort and creating, like, it's not just like, hey, I went on a ride. He's telling the story and stuff, and at the moment he's out in Western Australia just doing these crazy desert rides in sort of 35 degree, 40 degree heat. His last one, he just messaged me. He's like, I just got back from the ride. I've got heat stroke. I've just vomited. No. It's like, oh God, that sounds like the worst nightmare, but I'm happy to watch you do it, mate. So
right.
He's
I saw his name pop up in the comments. I've definitely seen him around for a while, because I recognized it as soon as I saw it, because it's a unique name. And I was like, oh, right on. I haven't seen that guy in a while.
Yeah, no, check him out. He's a legend. So it's good. And he's my go-to YouTube. I'm sure my friends and family are sick of me talking about YouTube. Like, I'm obsessed and like, I need to do this, I need to do that. And so now I found him. Like, I've never actually met him, but we just talk on Instagram and just bounce ideas off each other, or we'll upload our edits and be like, should I change anything with this, and really help each other
Yeah.
out. So yeah, it's awesome. It's really good.
Yeah. I was like like, do they have CrossFit in Australia?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know how it's like kind of like a cult, like those cult,
Yeah.
like they just like talk about CrossFit. That's all they can do is like, that's how I was with YouTube for like my first year. Like no
Yeah.
matter what somebody said, I had a way to turn that conversation into YouTube. You know, it'd be like,
Yeah. I'm pretty
they'd
sure
be
my
like, "Oh, I
friends are
took my
sick of
kids to the soccer game." I'd be like, you know what? On YouTube,
that.
soccer is actually, you know, like,
Oh God, I'm definitely that guy. I'm that guy.
yeah. It took a while for it to like calm down. So now I can actually have like normal conversations with people. But initially, like I totally understand, man. When you first get started, it's just there's so much to learn. And
Well, that's
it's like
exactly what I
really
was gonna
exciting.
say. Like, and I'm talking like about these different tactics and things that I can do, and everyone's like, What are you talking about, mate? Like that, I've got no idea. You're just speaking gibberish to me. Just go
Yeah,
away."
yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, at least you are building and like filming on your own property at home instead of like if you do a lot of POV stuff. There was a handful of people that I used to ride with that just didn't want to ride with me anymore because they didn't want to stop for me to like take another camera angle, or they didn't want to stop and wait for me
yeah,
to change batteries, or it was annoying that I was like, "Hey, you mind if I fly my drone right here?" You know, and like so it's
yeah,
like um so you
yeah.
got the
That can
plus
be a
side.
challenge for sure. Yeah, just working out. And actually, Dad loves it. He's probably the biggest fan of the channel. So he's always at the property, tinkering the shed or doing something. So he'll come up and drive the cable cam if I need to get a shot, or he's happy to
Uh-huh.
help out lifting things or do a bit of digging. So yeah, that's handy being at home as well.
What has surprised you most about the channel, like compared to like maybe what you expected out of it when you started?
Um, how obsessed I would become,
Yeah,
how much I love it.
yeah. You really thought it
Um,
was just going to be like a little side gig kind of thing?
well, yes and no. Like I said, I've been creating videos for a long time. I guess I just didn't really have a story to tell. So
Hmm.
then when the opportunity to start documenting the trail coming together, um, it just seemed, like a no-brainer. Um, so I kind of thought that I could get hooked on it, but maybe not to the extent that I did. And
Hmm.
also, what surprises me, like I'm a pretty shy, introverted guy, really,
Hmm.
which obviously a lot of YouTubers say, and it's like, well, I did not get that from watching your videos at all. But
Right.
yeah, just the community that's been built up, and these people. I can remember there was one time. It was about this time last year, because this is the busiest time of year for my graphic design business, and so I
Hmm.
didn't post for like 2 months or 3 months, and there was people messaging me like, "Hey, are you okay?" Like, I was like, "Yeah, sorry, I've just been really busy." And they're like, "Oh, don't give up YouTube." I was like, "Oh, I thought you had died or something had happened." I was like, "Oh, these
Yeah.
like, I've got a community that are missing me or worried where I am," and that blows my mind. That's wild.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting, man. It's like there's like you were saying, like your relationship with Prof, like you never met him, and there's a bunch of people on my channel that I talk to all the time. They always comment on my videos, or they're on my Patreon or whatever, and it's like I've never met these people, but we really know each other. Yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. It's
It's really
crazy.
kind of mind blowing too, where it's like you go and you look at the like demographics, and you're like, there's somebody in Singapore, like there's people in Singapore downloading my videos, like what the hell,
Yeah,
like.
yeah. You look at it's because you can see the languages that it's been transcribed in or something as well, and you're like, wow,
Yeah,
this is
totally
wild.
crazy, man.
That's really wild.
Well, dude,
So,
I really had a great time talking with you. Anybody that's listening to this, if you haven't gone over to check out his channel, it's in the show more, or you can hit the cutlaps.com. There's a link on there somewhere that says subscribe. And or you can just search Cutlaps on YouTube and it'll come up because there's not another one. So really, really appreciate everybody that's hung out so far. If you haven't hit the thumbs up, man, do that. And if you didn't like it, hit the thumbs down twice. It doesn't matter. Outside of that, like I said at the beginning, please, if you're an Apple Podcast listener, go over there, write me a 5-star review. I would love to start the next episode with shouting you out and whatever your comment is over there. It's like that would be really rad. So please do that for me. I appreciate it a lot. Those of you guys on Patreon, thank you very much. Those of you that are thinking about it, please do that as well, man. It really helps because my drone back there not doing well, and those things are really expensive. So I would love the support to get a new drone. So that's the cue for you. Just go over there, click that Patreon link, help me out. Anyways, it's as cheap as $1. It's like you go to the bar, you buy a beer, the dude just pours it for like 30 seconds and you give him $1. I've been chatting with Luke over here from Cutlaps for 2 hours. It's worth $1. Anyways, if you don't want to do any of that, I totally get it. You can do something for free though. And just remember this, it only takes a bike to be a biker. Get out and be one.